Okay, so we started learning about Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. Okay, and to really, really understand the omek of what Kohen, Levi, Yisrael is, we spoke about that each one is an expression of a quality that Klal Yisrael has already, and it's each one's job to bring out a certain quality and be expert at that quality. Okay, that's what we spoke about. So the kedusha that we see in Parshas Emor is where that they have to be kodosh comes after Parshas Kedoshim Tiyu of the whole Am Yisrael. Dabar lakol adas b'nei Yisrael Kedoshim Tiyu, because Klal Yisrael is totally kodesh, they can have people inside of them called Kohanim. And the proof to that is, as we're going to learn more in the next limud of Tefillin, the Kohanim were not supposed to be in the world. What was supposed to be in the world was that every Bechar of every family would be the Kohen. Before Matan Torah. Before Chet HaEgel.
If there's a Beit HaMikdash now, is there going to be like Kohanim? Like, is he going to be the Kohen?
They're going to be Kohanim. And later, L'Asid Lavo, the Bechor will become Mitukan when the Chet HaEgel is cleared up, and then the Bechoros will be the ones that are doing the Avodah. Okay? Which means that...
I don't need to do anything, right? So.
You need to do a lot. A Yisrael comes to the Beis HaMikdash is participating. A Levi, but everybody does something. They have different jobs.
Right, but he has to do more.
Depends what you call more. Right? Is it harder to be a Rebbe or harder to be a Talmud? They're two different jobs.
Harder to be a Rebbe because first you need to learn all of it.
Okay. You have to learn how to be a Talmud too, right?
No.
There's no skills in being able to learn being a Talmud?
Just sit and learn.
Just sit.
Rebbe has to sit for like 5 years, learn, then he can come here.
I actually think that one of the things we need to be teaching Talmidim is how to learn, how to be experiencing things, how to process, how to have organized thought, how to critical thinking, how to process, how to be present. These are all skills. I don't think it's that much easier to be a Talmud than to be a Rebbe than it is to be a Talmud, or a Talmud than to be a Rebbe. I think it's all the same. But the reason Klal Yisrael it was supposed to be always have a representative in every family of being Kohanim. And it's always the beginning. The beginning of everything always has Kedusha in it. That's why it's called that the Bereshis, right? The beginning of the world. What's Bereshis? So Chazal say it's the Torah, Bereshis, Bishvil Reshis, or with Reshis, the Torah, or Bishvil Am Yisrael, or with Am Yisrael, Hashem created the world. The beginning of something always defines what it is. Hashem created the world, He's the beginning of the world. Okay? Then the human beings, the beginning of the human beings are Am Yisrael. Okay? The beginning of your food is Truma. The beginning of your food is Challah. Okay? Whatever you do in the beginning, Bikurim. Whatever you do in the beginning sets the tone for everything else. So that the family, the Bechor, has incredible impact on the entire family. Right? That's actually what makes the father and the mother into parents. So now the Kedusha of Am Yisrael is inherently in the fact that a person's a Bechor. Because Am Yisrael in its beginning is completely holy. If you think about it like this, a person is created by a Zera. Okay, where does the Zera come from? So in the Zohar it says that the Zera comes from the brain of the father. Okay, it goes down the back of the spine, and it comes into the bris, and the baby is the baby is taken from that beginning, that seed, and is created into human being. So the source of the human being is a concept, right? The most pure part of the neshama part of a person, and then it's formed into a full expressed being, right? So the shorish of everything is always holy, and that's why the shorish of Am Yisrael should have always had Kohanim, and the rest of the mishpacha would be impacted by that Kohen. But because the Kohanim were rote, the Bechoros were rote mecheta ego, so that changed the entire world. And now the world has to have Kohanim and Levim that weren't supposed to be there before. Now, to truly understand the job of the Kohanim and Levim, we need to take a step back. There's a sefer called Sharei Ora. He was one of the early Mekubalim, and he says something fascinating. He says that if you want to see, everything in the world has reflections. There's three realms. There's time, place, and person. Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. Okay, so he says that in the person, right, in the build of the nefesh of a person, right, if you want to look at the person that represents this part of a human being, you look at the neshama. The expression of a human being in the world of the neshama is a kohen. We have three parts of ourselves. We have a neshama, we have a ruach, we have a nefesh. The expression of a nefesh is Yisrael, and the expression of a ruach is a Levi. Now, I said it specifically in that order, and I'll explain to you, when I explain to you these musagim, you'll see a very funny thing. The Torah talks about Torah's Kohanim, doesn't mention a word about Levi until Parshas Bamidbar. You would think that it should talk about Leviim right away. So to understand all of this, we first have to understand how we're built. Okay, it's very important to be aware of all of your parts, and then you can use them correctly. Okay, so if you look in Brias HaOlam, you see a very fascinating thing. How is Hashem created? How is a human being created? Sorry. There was a Afar Min Adama, right? He molded together a body. Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chaim, and he blew inside of him a neshama. And then we're done, right? You have a neshama, you have a body. Vayhi Adam lenefesh chai. Then Adam became something else. Basically, I want to form the question like this: who are you? You have a body?
Yeah.
You a body?
Yeah. You know. Yeah.
You have a neshama?
Yeah.
Are you a neshama?
No.
Elokai neshama shenasata bi. Wait, who's bi?
Baby.
Who are you? You're a body or a soul? You can't be a body because when you die, the body stays and you're gone. But you can't be a soul because a soul is something, when you understand what a neshama is, you'll understand that it's you're much more than that. So to understand each part, and this gives you incredible power how to navigate your life. We have a neshama inside of us that is what's called a chelak elokam yimal, which means the only thing that it actually wants, it never changes, never moves, the only thing it wants is to be like God. Means it wants the ultimate, most beautiful values there are in the world, to give, to love, to be honest. And it also wants that all of life should be a way of an intimate connection with Hashem. Anything beyond that, not interested.
It wants to conquer as well, no?
Whatever the midos tovos of Hashem are, right? And to understand that, you need a lot of akdamas to say what you just said, right? But the neshama is a tzedek Elohim. It needs to be like God. And it will never change. It has no ups and downs. It's consistent. I want to be close to God. And I want to be good, and I want to be loving, and I want to be caring. Okay? We have another part of ourselves, which all of us relate to. It's called a nefesh. A nefesh governs the physical functions of a human being. My desire to eat, my desire to sleep, my desire, even on a very simple level, to have love, right? My desire to have sense of smells, all the physical things that a person has, that's governed by the nefesh. And if you want to put in context of the medicinal world, almost all the refuahs that you're going to talk about hit that level. So let's say, of course, the medical field, the Western medical field hits the body, it doesn't even hit the nefesh. Okay, the nefesh isn't the body. The nefesh is what's the least physical expression of a body that's possible, right? It's very dark, But you could see it if you want to talk about it in an energy sense. The Chinese medicine talk about it. They hit energy healings talk about it, right? You can move around the nefesh. That's the place where the body where traumas are kept.
How do Chinese medicine talk about it if according to like a lot of Jews I spoke to, non-Jews don't have a soul. They don't have a neshama.
The neshama they're talking about is not nefesh. And they do have a neshama, they don't have our neshama. Two different things.
Behemoths have a neshama.
They don't have a neshama and they don't have what called a ruach because they can't speak. They have a nefesh. They totally have a nefesh. You can even see that animals need affection. Right? Affection is a part of a human being function. Okay? Now, a nefesh will not change. It always will want physical things. That's its job. Right? It's not supposed to be any different. Okay? Now,
When the body dies, the neshama leaves, but
the nefesh also leaves.
the nefesh also leaves.
The nefesh, it says in the Zohar Kodesh, hovers over the body.
Hovers.
Yeah. The ruach, we'll talk about what that means, goes in the middle, and the neshama goes back to Gan Eden. Gan Eden hein tei menuchasa. The neshama tzora v'chaim, right? The neshama goes back up, and the reason why you can daven by a kever is because you can relate this person. You can help. You can talk to this person, and they'll help you because they have a way of accessing. Here are you, and they're up. They're like a ladder. They're able to relate to both worlds. Okay.
Through the nefesh, which then is connected
The
to
ruach to the neshama.
neshama.
Okay, but to understand it in a very practical sense, okay, who is you? You
Nefesh.
are the one who makes the decision how you combine these two powers of neshama and nefesh. In other words, the neshama is like a malach, like a yoetz. It's not, you don't, after Chet Adam Rishon or after Chet Egel, the neshama isn't, you don't feel it like inside of your being. You have to access it, right? You can either listen to your higher self or not listen to your higher self, right? You can either feel connection to Hashem, feel your desired connection to Hashem, or not feel your desired connection to Hashem. The feeling part of you, the alive part of you, the part of you that needs meaning, the part of you that has struggles, that's called the ruach. Because the ruach's job is to bring down the information of the neshama and use it to influence the nefesh. Right? So if you ever had a situation, you made a decision, right? You know, I really want to steal from somebody. Okay, I need this money. You know, but that's really not nice. Okay, but I really need the money. Okay, but if you're going to get the money and you're going to be a jerk, I mean, that's just a horrible thing. It's not worth the money. That's a process of accessing your neshama, your nefesh, and having the ruach help you guide which way you go.
The ruach is the intermediary between the nefesh and the neshama.
The ruach, and that's really you, because that's who you are. It's like you take hydrogen and oxygen, you put them together, you have water. When you put a neshama and a goof together, you have something else. It has access to a neshama, has access to a nefesh, but it's neither of them. It's the place which combines both of them.
Okay. Both want so many different things.
What's the sefer that talks about they talk to each other by the Ramchal, I think?
What
That's
exactly?
Torah? The one that
He has.
with the wave.
He's talking about something else. Something about seichel and neshama. That's a different
What is
concept.
the lashon that Hashem uses when he blew into his nostrils? What's the word? Ruach?
Vayipach ba'apov nishmas chaim.
Nishmas.
That's the neshama.
Neshama.
Vayihi adam lenefesh chaya,
Nefesh, right?
which he's a nefesh alive, which
Right.
Onkelos translates means he can speak.
And
What does it
then
mean he can
use-
speak? He can take concepts that are very, very gavoa, which is the neshama, and he can put them in his realm and put them out. Right? So he can make decisions. He can say, it's going to go this way. And then he can rule, he can lead and rule his nefesh, like a rider on a horse, or a deeper version of it, like a husband and a wife. He can be a melech, and he can direct this part of himself to do amazing things. Your nefesh is the key to the power of your life. If you don't harness those physical needs and desires, you won't get anywhere.
But doesn't your nefesh want to be free? It doesn't want to be governed by the neshama.
Do you want to be governed by your father?
No.
No. Do you want to take eitzah from your father?
Yeah.
Okay. It depends on the yachas. If you put the nefesh down, try to not give it expression, it will throw you off so far that it will rule your life. If you make love with it, and you encourage it, and you grow it, and you feed it, and you make it happy, it will be your best friend. It will solve all of your life's problems.
Like the rider and the horse. If you take care of the horse will take care of you.
Yeah,
If
he'll
you
take
feed
you
it,
far.
Like with Bilam and his horse. Is that whole marshal where Bilam was hitting his horse? And then
That's pretty brilliant. I never thought of that. I'm sure that will work out. You have to work that out, but probably. Okay.
So the ruach is the part of you that basically speaks to both the neshama and the ruach.
Mm-hmm.
So that part of you that's doing cheshbon and nefesh, or like thinking about things, is the ruach.
Right. You could also call it the lave. The place of the ruach is the lave. It's where you think about stuff and you make decisions and you're like wondering and you're processing. You have feelings and expression. And that's where all that stuff happens.
What about your gut feeling? What is that? Is that your ruach?
No, a gut could be. It could be a lot of things. A gut feeling could be from a place of street smart, like a nefesh. It could be from a neshama concept, which is you have like a woman she has higher intuition based on being connected spiritually. It can come from a lot of places, right? I'll read you the Vilna Gaon, okay? V'chein ba'adam haneshama ne'lemes me'od. The neshama is like merachef al pnei hamayim. Okay, ruach alokim ruach. It's not really in. V'ikar chiyuv shel adam hu haruach, hu ha'adam hamekabel schar va'onesh kayadua. When you go to Shema, when you have the end of your life, and you connect to Hashem, the part of you that is the place of connection, the neshama does not need help to connect. The part of you that connects is how much you change your goof into being a kli for your neshama. Who decides that? The ruach. The malchus of how you connect to Hashem through what the action of malchus is your ruach.
So the more that you elevate your body, the more higher level you'll get in Shemayim.
The whole point of the world is to make the neshama and the goof so intimately connected, they look like husband and wife. That's the whole point of the world.
With the Christians, they just get rid of the goof and say no.
Every other religion there is, whether it's Hinduism, their reason they came up with their theology is because the way they couldn't deal with the negativity of the world. Whether negativity is physicality or negativity is bad midos, they couldn't figure out how that works, so they decided, okay, leave that out. Either run away from the world like the Buddha does and they meditate, or the Christians and say, Chetzi labal, chetzi la'azazel, and chetzi l'Hashem. So you can't deal with that stuff. That stuff will look horrible. And the real holiness is to be porish. And what Hashem says is, I want the entire world to permeate with me. How? Your neshama can go and metamorphosize your body. How did your neshama metamorphosize your body? By using this thing called the ruach, which is a translator, which is a processor, which takes this higher knowledge and puts it practically to application in a goof form. A neshama on its own can only give eitzah, right? It's like the Torah. A neshama on its own can't, without the process of the ruach, its Torah is theoretical. It's an idea. Now, it's like going to a Rav who tells you a halacha and has no idea about your life. Worthless. But if the ruach will translate the neshama's energy into practicality, what has to do with the nefesh, then all of the eitzah becomes relevant. But you need to translate it. You need to be involved in, you have to understand the world, you have to understand the situation you're in, you have to understand your body, right? All of those things are translating the concepts the neshama says to a practical, applicable life message, okay? So he says, V'hu hamargish, v'hu kol kochosa v'chushav. You notice the world is going to a place of chavaya, of experience. No one is interested in stop getting ideas, right? And no one is interested anymore in stop having a physical experience, right? If you take a guy and says, I got lots of money, I got lots of women, and it's like, okay, but what'd you do with your life, dude? Right? That's the world the world's holding now. Because the world is advancing to the world of ruach, and the Torah is advancing to the place of ruach, where everything has to be felt. It's not enough to have an idea. Tell me what it means. Can I feel it in my life? That's because we're looking to have this place of ruach be fully expressed.
It used to be that like heroes and stuff like that were like, I don't know, like 50, 40 years ago, right?
Or sameach.
Or sameach, Torah. You led him over to a guy who's Jewish. He never like experienced Judaism, and you could have a discussion whether God exists or not, and like that could be a discussion. Today, like no one cares. Like I don't care if God exists or not. Like I want just a good life and enjoy myself.
Right.
And
So
everyone's also very self-centered today. Like into themselves. Like if I can enjoy myself better, then maybe I'll be a part of this.
that's also true. But the thing, I think that people's God concept developed to the point at which it's not a topic, because I know there's something so huge in the universe that I have to relate to. I don't care how you explain it. I don't care if you prove it or not prove it. I'm living it. And I think the concept of atheism is sort of running out of the world, even though people might say it. What they mean is that I don't believe in the God you believe in, that you talk about, because he's like, that's irrelevant. That's so small-minded, that's so not developed, he can't be. But do they feel like there's no higher power in the world? What are they, dumb? I mean, really, you created the universe? I mean, what happened? Right? There is no universe, nothing going on. If everybody who believes in manifestation, which is like, I don't know, a huge part of the world, obviously understands something beyond them, right? It's not a discussion anymore. It's not like I have to argue and
It
work
just
it out.
feels like it's not part of his realm. Like there is a God, but he's out of the picture.
He can decide how he wants to relate to him.
No, but there are some people that believe there's a God, like, but he's out of the picture. Like he's like, here, take the world. You guys run it. Global people, like you guys run the world, and I'm gonna stay out of the picture. Some people believe that.
That's just a bad relationship. It's like he's there. It's like you have a marriage, right? Or you have a family. It's like I have a father. I don't talk to him. We don't talk. He's annoying. All right, whatever. I have issues with him. He's in the house, right?
Yeah.
But we're not having a relationship. That's not a belief. It's a bad relationship. That's exactly the place where the ruach functions. How are my relationships going? The biggest struggle in this generation is people believing in love. Really, everything what you work on boils down to the fact, do I believe that I'm lovable? Do I believe that I deserve love? Does God love me? Does my wife love me? Do my friends love me? Do I respect me, love me? It's all the same. That's basically behind almost all of people's struggles, right? On the deep sense.
Why do you think people don't feel lovable?
Because it's a belief system. To believe in love has a lot to do with myself, how I view myself. So if I look at myself and I see something negative, right, I'm not going to believe I'm lovable. Unless I have a deeper sense of myself, that I'm really an amazing thing and I'm in the process, right? Along those type of things. There are a lot of emunas like that. So these we struggle with. This is the avoda of the ruach. The neshama has no problem loving, no struggle. Believes completely in Hashem's love, believes completely in loving other people, zelo sheila. But for me to process that, how I deal with the negativity of my life, or other people's lives, that's the avodah of the ruach. Okay? The haneshama hi asechel, hamelamed laadam das, and that's where the Sefer of Das Tunis discusses. He switches the neshama and sechel. They're two different bechinas of neshama. How things that we process intellectually, things that are higher than intellect, we just know. Okay? But all of that can called the neshama in this context. Vu mazalo shel adam umalacho kayadua. It's like the malach on top of him. Vihi b'shamayim rak nitzosos mitznotzes mimeno al ha'adam lahanigo laskilo. You're not getting the whole neshama. It's like the Zohar Kodesh says, the shlof nal me'al reglecha, right? That the neshama was like his body was like the foot, and the neshama was in the foot. He says, take your body off and go higher to the higher part of your neshama. In other words, the neshama is a chevel, it's a long chevel. So the part of it that we really relate to is tiny. What the neshama really is something which is part of the creation of the world, right? That's why when we access neshama, we can actually create. Because we're with Hashutzis, with Hashem, He gives us power like it's something like Him.
We're all shoes on the foot of our neshamas.
Anyone
Exactly.
want to get
Yalla.
Alright.
Mm-hmm.
what's the focus on like learning Torah so much, like seichelic Torah, like learning in your brain? Because before I was from, I was like, you know, just I'm gonna write music, right? It would just come down, just come into me. I hear it in my head. Then as I started learning more Torah, and I couldn't do math at all. And then as I started learning Torah, I got like more complex and more thinking in a complex way. That built up. I had less the ability to do the drop down.
Right. So that you're right that the way Torah is taught now, it's very moach and not very moichin. In other words, mochin means like he's saying, it's a higher. I have a higher self. It's a download, and I know it.
Flow.
It's not about a process. It's the difference between nevuah and Torah Shebal Peh. Right? Torah Shebal Peh is about the person doing his own process. Abaye says.
It's the difference between learning about something and then just seeing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the world is shifting from Torah, that which is about processing, working hard, and using Aristotelian methods of process,
Right.
to back to where it was before Levu was lost, to where people can say, I know this. How do you know this? I just know this. Right? And there'll be less bringing proofs from Shas. They'll be saying, I'm 100% clear, my neshama knows this completely. That's what you see from the kids. The kids are super wise. Where'd you know that from? Where did it say that? I know it. Right? Because they're connected to their neshama. And they can process it through their seichel, but it's not that their seichel is the main dominant part. It's just a kli to translate it for people around them. Okay? We can put it into words. But it is, the whole Sisrei Torah work like that. Because you can't, even if you try to translate it in your head, you have to go to a higher place to see it. Right? You have to be looking at something which is, if you want to be real, instead of just talking about information, you have to go to that place, experience it, and then bring it down into
The
words.
difference between Chachma, Bina, and Das. Das being the highest level,
Right.
where you experience it yourself.
Okay, you're right, but it's not really the point, because Chachma Bina Das is a formula of how anything is processed in the world. I'm not talking about the process. I'm not talking about how it's processed in your being. I'm talking about from where it's processed. In other words, are you going through an analytical process and saying, okay, it says it over here. Okay, I have a question over here. Oh, there's a proof over here. All right, now I think like this, and I really think it. I have das about it. But the process that I went through was extremely self-involving, extremely proofs. I'm almost alone. I'm in my own world. I have my own process of thinking, and then I come out with this maskana. The whole Gemara is like that, right? That's why the Gemara calls. It's never when a person says something, they blame it on themselves. They say Abai Omar, Beishamai Omri, because that's the truth. That's what they're coming through their process, and this is what I think the Torah is. Right? A Navi never says that. Navi's like, Ko Amar Hashem.
Hashem said.
How do you know? Let me tell you. That's what happens, okay? I don't need it. When you say something, I don't need to say, I think this. Daniel said it. I'm quoting you, Mila V'Mila, right? So that's a different type of knowing things. People in this generation are able to access more this higher knowledge. Their neshama speaks to them. It puts it down in their seichel. Their seichel translated it, and eventually it becomes das by them. It can go very fast.
How do you know if it's your neshama speaking or your nefesh speaking?
So the secret always is if it's good mitos or bad mitos. I'll give you another example. Okay.
What would be speaking? Just Gamidas, what would be?
I'll take you to a different context. Okay. Many people learn musar, okay, to get themselves be better. Okay. That was the horrible thing to do. Why'd you do that? I can't believe it. You know what it says? Blah 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 blah. Right? The neshama never talks like that. Never. Never.
What
It's
does Hashem say?
the neshama is sweet and loving.
Oh, it's like you are so kind.
It's like, look, you're an amazing person. Okay, is this what you really want to be? Look what it's going to do to you. I mean, you could decide, but you could be so much better, right? Look at the potential of your life. That's neshama talk.
Okay.
You don't need a listen.
When the neshama is tainted by the Yetzer Hara, then it sounds like negativity.
So it's not the nefesh speaking, it's the neshama speaking through the Yetzer Hara.
The Yetzer Hara is not the nefesh. The Yetzer Hara is bad. The Yetzer Hara is Haman, is Hitler. He hates you. Sofer Rasha Latzadik Ubikesh Lahamisa. He has one interest: you dead. The Masechah Sofrim says a kid. There's a difference between an animal and a kid. An animal walks to the end of a cliff, looks over, and runs away, right? And a kid, a human, a 2-year-old looks at this. Yeah, look at this cliff, right? So what are the Masechah Sofrim says? You know why? He has the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara wants to kill him. Okay? The Yetzer Hara is not your friend. He's not your friend.
It's not the Atari, he's just interested, he's confused.
No. There's a koach in the world that Hashem will take out of the world. The Nachash had one intention. He wanted to kill them. And he was matzliach. He was not nice. He was not sweet.
And he's still doing it.
And Amalek needs to be taken out of the world. They are not nice. They're not sweet. Right? But your nefesh, it's just simple. It's not complicated. Take care of me. Direct
your
me.
nefesh is a little boy.
Right.
Your neshama is an old wise man.
Mm-hmm.
And the Yetzer Hara wants to kill a little boy, and the neshama's job is to protect the little boy from the Yetzer Hara.
Beautiful muscle.
Whoa.
Wow.
Wait, say it again. The
I'm writing
neshama
a
is an
book.
old wise man. The nefesh is a little boy.
Yeah.
And the neshama wants to just protect the nefesh.
From the Yetzer Hara, who wants to kill him.
And who's the Yitzhahara? That's another part of you, man.
It's a malach ra.
It's an outside.
It's like the Nachash.
I thought we said the Yitzhahara is inside.
It became inside.
It became inside, but you have to understand that it's not you.
Right.
It's external being that swallowed you swallowed in. But it tells you to do stuff which is not true to yourself.
The Yetzer Tov is also not me.
The Yetzer Torah is part of you.
It's part of the
Not the whole
Yetzer,
thing.
it's not.
It's something above you. It's your higher self, but you are much more than just a neshama.
Is the Yetzer Tov your neshama, or is it separate from your neshama?
The Yetzer Torah is a neshama. Same thing.
It is a neshama,
Yeah.
same thing. And the ruach in this whole picture,
Is you.
so there's the old wise man, the little boy, the Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Tov is the neshama. It's the whole picture.
Right. The neshama and the Yetzer Hara are at odds. The goof and the neshama are not at odds ever, unless
And
you
the
make them
Yetzer
that way.
Hara also tries to get the old wise man and the neshama to fight with the nefesh,
Exactly.
the boy. And the ruach's job is to say, no, don't listen to this guy. You guys are actually supposed to be married. You're actually supposed to be one
Right.
together.
Right. Exactly. Perfectly well put.
Wow, that's wow.
Perfectly well put. Okay. Okay.
There should be storybooks for kids like this.
Write them.
Kids don't read books anymore.
Write them. For sure. That's a very good description of how a human being works. You can do it in
It's so
stories.
it's so simplified.
Write
It's
it in
like
your book,
deep,
Mike.
deep Kabbalah, but it's like just it's a story.
So if you do emotional work, right, the inner child, you ever heard that stuff, the inner child?
Yeah.
So what basically happens is if you do it right, is if the ruach listens to the nefesh, let it say exactly what it needs, all of its issues, and then says, okay, Habibi, I hear everything. Let's take Eitzah from your higher self, from your neshama. And then it brings down all kinds of chachma about your traumas and about your issues, and it helps you heal. Which means that if you have a therapeutic method which doesn't access your higher self, it's extremely limited. Doesn't teach a person to take Eitzah from their higher selves, it's extremely limited. Because all you're trying to get chachma from a place, your most nuclear power, the most developed part of yourself, you're ignoring. Okay, and it's possible to keep the neshama out. The more physical experience, the more aggressive. Like I once ran a group called Call of the Shofar. Okay, it was an emotional workshop that people went for 2.5 days, and they had the most explosive emotional experience you can possibly imagine, and people made huge life changes. The only thing was, it was very, very emotional, high-powered, high energy, almost physical, and there was very little cognizant thought going on. And therefore, I never saw this spiritual process of a person saying, whoa, okay, now I get it. Nothing clicked. Now I'm different. It doesn't happen. People can make change, tikkun, like this. Literally like this. I do this all the time with people. I talk to them. They come out with serious issues. I will listen to them, talk to them, pull out their questions, pull out their needs. and then boom, they're like, wow, okay, now I know exactly. And they solve the problem themselves because they access their higher self.
Saying that healing doesn't need to take a long time. Most people think that you got to go through years of therapy, but actually, if you switch on a light switch, it just fills the room with light in a second.
Right. It doesn't have to take a long
You have to
time.
know where the light switch is.
There's should be a process of healing consistently, and it should be very, you can quantify it and say, I shifted like this, I shifted like this, I shifted like this, I shifted like this. And the shift, you should be able to articulate it, because the whole point of a ruach is articulation, right? You can't necessarily articulate it like, how did I get there? Because you took Eitzah from your higher self and you had like a download. It's like, now I understand things differently, right? But you need to go through all of the pieces. If you just sit there and learn something, an intellectual self, like you're saying, right, and just have ideas, and you didn't access your lower self, then there's no synergy going on. They're not working together, right? So you have to listen to the nefesh, then you have to let the neshama give you eitzah, and then marry them, and then a person changes. Okay, and I would like to, this is just to throw it out, and we're going to explain this more. The Kohen, his job is to be representing the neshama for Kol Yisrael. The Yisrael's job is to represent the nefesh of Kol Yisrael, and the Levi's job is to be the ruach of Kol Yisrael. And each one of those people exemplify this midah, and they teach each other how to use this part of ourselves, and the full expression creates the Shekhinah. Before Chet HaEgel,
Can you repeat that again? The nefesh, ruach, and
Neshama.
Which one? The neshama is the
The
Kohen?
neshama is the Kohen, and I have to explain this. Tomorrow we're going to explain this, right? But a Kohen is the higher self. He's in the Beis HaMikdash. He doesn't work the land, right? We'll have to explain it more, but simply. The Yisrael is very involved in all of the world, okay? Zvulun goes and makes ships out, and he goes the business to the rest of the whole world, right? And everybody has land in Eretz Yisrael, working the land, and there's a government, and there's a king, and all kinds of stuff, and wars, right?
When you say the Kohen, you mean the Levim?
And the Levim, their job is to be the middle ground. They're the shoimrim. They're the people who make music. I'll explain all of this in grave detail tomorrow. I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger, right?
Go for it.
Okay? But to understand how each part of Am Yisrael works, then you can grab hold of the message of that, even by learning the Torah, because it teaches you a lot about the midah of neshama and how to access it, just by learning it. So that's why it's important to identify the halachas of Kohen will teach you a lot about neshama. The halachas of Levi will teach you a lot about Levi, and the halachas of Yisrael will teach you a lot about nefesh. Okay? Now, we're going to stop here, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. But before, I want to relate to the topic you said about Goyim don't have the same neshama as Am Yisrael. Okay? They don't have a neshama, right? You ever hear these words? Now, you have to check always the midos of what people say. Okay? If there's sina, and if there's non-respect, you know they're wrong. If you see hate in their words, if the concept they're expressing has hate within it, or it has zilzal within it, you know they don't understand the concept. Because nothing about the neshama, about chokhmah of Hashem, chokhmah, what is the world, has no negativity. It's just what, koach ma. And it's all tov, and everything has value, and it's all loved. So if you have any hate inside of you, you left chokhmah. You're not saying something smart.
I agree with that as well. And also, I came to that discussion while fighting with them whether, like, Jews are better than non-Jews. Now, but they start bringing Gemara and a whole bunch of Sforim saying that non-Jews don't have a neshama, and like, so why? I would like to assume that the Gemara and Sforim didn't come from a hate point, so...
Okay, so first of all, people will always translate whatever they learn in every context with their midos. You can have two people looking at the same piece of information. One will say it means this, one will say it means this, and it's just because of their midos. Right? Words are very easy to mess with because you translate it according to your ideology. So number one, I would tell you that go check everything they told you and see. If you start with the midos, I don't believe in hate. I don't believe in disrespect. Now read it. You'll be shocked what the words say. Number one. Number two, I'm going to say a radical sentence, but I think it's totally true. Every human being has to work on their midos. Every human being, from the time of Adam Rishon. The Torah has absolutely no problem telling us that Avraham Avinu wasn't shalom, Yitzchak wasn't shalom, Yaakov wasn't shalom, his Shifti Kol wasn't shalom, Moshe wasn't shalom. Has no problem. Why we have a stupid idea that every single person who was written in the Gemara, the Mishnah, was mushlam, and it's absolutely nothing wrong with them, is idiotic. Idiotic. And therefore it's possible that you will see an expression of a certain midah in a certain person's Torah. You could say, that Torah represents that midah, and it can be more mitzvah. You could do that. Now you might be wrong, right? But at least the way you're understanding it means that the midos are off. At least that's true. But to sell your soul, to sell your process and say that, looks to me like it's messed up, but I'm going to blow my mind, brainwash myself and say it's not messed up, will never get you anywhere. Ever. I think the two things that you will always find in Chazal that need to be improved upon is the generations have had a fear-based relationship with Hashem. It's extremely clear. And is developing to a more love-based relationship with Hashem, which is completely a product of Golus, right? The other thing you'll see is the lack of kavod zeh lezeh, which Chazal say mefurish was the chisar of Akiva and Talmidov, and Chazal say mefurish in Sanhedrin that was the problem with Talmud Bavli, that they fought with each other. So you'll see that in the Talmud, which needs to be improved upon. And the other thing, what I'm going to say a radical sentence is, the relationship to women is something that is being developed more and more with time. It's easy to mezalzel in a woman for a man, to not see her beauty and her value. And you will find representatives of that in certain people's words, and don't be afraid. That's what it means. And that's not mushlam.
What do you mean you'll find it?
You'll find different chazalim that say things that and maybe you agree, but I wouldn't agree. And I think that's a representative of the world shifting to a more positive equality relationship with women, which is a holy thing. Equality doesn't mean that women should be men. Equality means each one has value. Like Chazal say, shkulim heim. So if you look at a woman and you say lack of value, you have hate and you have lack of respect, you will know that you're wrong. Because in Chachma, in Hashem, there is no lack of kavod, no lack of ava, ever. So if you're doing that, you haven't yet masig the omek of Chachma. By definition.
The lack of respect
Because
for
definition.
women and others is like because they need to feel better about themselves and stay superior to everything around them.
I think so. I think the Arla represents if you look at the Arla, you take off the Arla, what happens is you have a keter, right? And if you have an Arla, there's no keter, right? It's what Chazal call malchus below taga. It's a kingship without any crown. A crown represents, people look up and say, wow, right? And some kingships, people look up and say, you're a piece of garbage, but I have to fear you, right? Like Putin, Stalin, right? So men who are undeveloped, they want to be a melech, because that's their job, and the way they do it is like Stalin and Putin, by instilling fear, control, putting the other person down, and that makes them feel good. The full expression of that you can find in the porn world, where it's abusive to the point of really, really torturing somebody. Okay? But you can find that in the Torah world also. You can find men putting women down all over the place, right? If you find that in the Talmud, don't be shocked, because that's where the world was holding, right? And as the world develops, it gets more mitukan. Does it mean everyone was like that? No, because some people were mitukan and others. You can find someone who had a lack of shleibus in himself, and it'll express itself in his words. And it's idiotic to say, no, there can't be anything wrong with him. That's impossible. Why? Why? Where'd they get that from?
We kind of like expect like people in the Talmud or in the Mishnah, they say that they were so great that they can even revive people from the dead, and we expect these people like they're like the greatest of the great.
Yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu was pretty great, right?
Yeah.
Did he make any mistakes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he have any refinement he had to do?
Yes.
Okay, you can't be holier than Moshe Rabbeinu. Just let's like get stop
Right.
saying shtuyot. You can't be holier than the others. Okay, it's not going to happen. I mean, it could be, but let's be real. Like, why? Right?
But lack of respect for a woman feels like a really, really big mistake. Like a really big problem that somehow they didn't.
You can't judge, because that's the problem with judgment, is you don't know what it's like to be in a society. You're in a different society. You don't know what it's like to be in society. Everybody thinks like that. That's just the way it is.
Once you're learning Torah at such a high level, shouldn't you see things beyond the society you're in?
In order to do that, you have to work on your midos really hard, and you have the ability to question absolutely everything and take down just from the source. And that's hard.
These people did that, no?
Maybe.
Like,
How do you know they did that?
because they're in the, I feel they're in the Gemara.
They
like,
did what they did. It's very clear what they did. They took the halacha, they passed it down, they looked into it in great depth, they figured out how it works. Did they fix the midah of kavod to all the brios? I don't know. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't care. It's not my business. But it's possible that they didn't, because any midah is possible not to be mitkam. It doesn't mean the Torah is not holy, it doesn't mean they're not amazing, it means they're not mushlam. Okay? And the society, the world has developed in the topic of abusing children and abusing women very, very much. Okay?
They're very far extreme now. But,
So every time you try to develop something, there's confusion,
right.
right? But the general desire that women are as important as men in the world is very, very important. Now let's talk about Goyim, right? Hashem didn't create any little tiny speck of the world without any value. Not only does it have value, it has value that without that the world would be completely different. Every single nation that Hashem created has a purpose. The reason why they have a different neshama is because our neshama, its goal is to make an intimate relationship with Hashem. I want Hashem. It's like the difference between a woman you're married to and a woman you're not married to. Your wife will have a deep desire to connect to you all the time. The neighbor will not. But she could be awesome. She could be an amazing person. She could be changing the world. Right? When we think about our gift to the world, okay, I want everyone to think about for a second. What you're going to do in this world. Are you going to change the world? Okay? Everybody has that need to change the world. A Jew's need to change the world, if you look at it in a deep way, ultimately will always be, I want God in the world. I want to change this world to be a kli for the Shekhinah. And maybe you can't translate that in your words now, but you'll find out eventually as you go on, more connected to your Shema, it's like, if I don't get that, I didn't do anything. That's not the job of the Chinese or the Americans. They have other things they have to change the world. The Americans made chesed into the world, acceptance, freedom to the world, right? Every country has a certain midah they brought into the world. Some of them bring negative midas into the world, like the Chinese government, right? But it's not the only thing going on there. There was Chinese healing was a huge gift to the world, right? There's a lot of, every society has gifts to the world. Aristotle changed the entire world. Not only Aristotle changed the entire world, it's clear from the fact that Alexander the Great, when he saw Shimon HaTzadik in front of him to win the wars, it's clear that Aristotelian thinking was the foundation for all of Torah Sheba'al Peh. And without that coming into the world, Torah Sheba'al Peh wouldn't have been able to come into the world because people couldn't think. He taught people how to think. That's why the Rambam based all of his Chochmah on Aristotle, because it's true. Right? So, the world, the Goyim have an incredible value. They have a different value than us. They have a different neshama. They also need God, by the way. They need a relationship, they need a spiritual experience. Every person is needs a spiritual experience. However, the difference is exactly what the Torah says by Moshe Rabbeinu and by Bilam. Moshe Rabbeinu, it says Vayikra, Lashon Chiba. lashon of kviyas. And by Bilam, yakar. It's like pilegesh. It's like lashon of kari, lashon tuma, and lashon akrai. What are they saying? They're saying Hashem has a relationship with Klal Yisrael consistently. We're married. Every part of our life, he's involved. A guy goes up for a spiritual experience, get all of the value of that, and it goes on in his life separate, because he has a different job. Right? You can see the difference between a Kohen and a Yisrael. A Kohen is more in tune with the spiritual realm by being in the Beis HaMikdash and all of his jobs than a Yisrael is, because they have different jobs. So a guy is farther away from a Kohen than a Yisrael is, more like a Yisrael. Okay, but the main thing I wanted to teach you is, if you see any type of hate and lack of respect in anybody's chachma, you know for sure it's off, by definition. You don't have to think about it. Or any other bad midos. If the halacha means have bad midos, if the Torah means have bad midos, they messed it up. Impossible. And I don't care who it is. I don't care what they're quoting. They have to be off.
Is it possible that that's why, like, a lot of the Torah world doesn't want to access, like, the higher stuff, part of the stuff?
100%.
If they did, they'd freak out because everything that they've, like, called true is literally, like, it's like, because I noticed that myself recently, and it was like, a minute I was, like, up, and then came back down, I was like, oh, man, like, these things that people have said to me about Esav and, like, hatred, and it totally conflicts with my upbringing, where I had, like, my best friends were all, like, the nicest non-Jews in the world. They'd do anything for me, you know? And it's like, how do I, you know, so it's like this dissonance that exists, but then it's like, also, there's some truth in what they said. It must be that at some point, at some time, that could happen. But it doesn't necessarily, you know, and that's why I like Rav Kook, because Rav Kook says, like, I saw it, Tzaddikim love all the nations. You know, like, you gotta get on that vibe, not on the hate vibe.
The world is shifting from Torah of Gullus to Torah of Eretz Yisrael. Torah of Gullus is frayed, it's jarred, there's something wrong with it. It was necessary to survive. The way the Svaras speak about it, it's like, if the way that the Cheskel Navi expresses the going into Gullus is the body dies, all of the limbs, all of the bones get spread over all of the world, which is the kever, not in Eretz Yisrael, right? And then it disintegrates in all those places. And the only that's left is this rekev, okay? That rekev is what the place where Tchias HaMesim come from. Okay? There's some level of, it's like when you go to sleep, there's some level of Chias in your body or else you wouldn't be able to come back. The Torah of Golus is that bone that you can rebuild the dead body from. It's just survival.
Right.
And it's a mefurish in Chazal. We're going to learn this pasuk in a minute. That Hashem is going to get angry. V'choraf Hashem Elokeichem. Right? What does it say? What does it say in Kriya Shema? Keep going. V'lo yeh mata. Right? V'avadetem mehero mi'al ha'aretz hadova. Right? V'samtem es devorah ha'eila al levamchem mi'al nafshechem u'kshartem oslam al yadchem. Right? So Chazal say, you'll enter Golus, and really the mitzvahs don't mean anything anymore. They're not the same mitzvahs. But do them anyway, because when you come back to Eretz Yisrael, you'll know what to do. Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound very frum. Right? The mitzvahs in Golus are a tiny fraction of what a mitzvah is supposed to look like. Dalet al mashallah. Do it like this. Don't do it like this. It has to be like this, because if you don't do it like this, what's going to happen? That's how it looks. Very, very frayed and jarred. Not the full picture. So when we come back to Eretz Yisrael, and there's Geula thinking, so there's a whole Tenuah of Am Yisrael, which is Shamranim, which is like, no, hey, this new stuff, I'm scared. You had the reform movement, maybe it's going to happen again, right? Which is why they had incredible Hitnagdos to Rav Kook, because he's coming with incredible Sisrei Torah ideas like, wait, that's not what my grandfather told me. Like, I'm not doing that, right? And that's why there's this whole chichuch between some parts of Klal Yisrael, other parts of Klal Yisrael, and in a deeper sense, the children and the parents. Because the children are saying, guys, you got it wrong. The parents are saying, how dare you? I'm smarter than you, I know better. And the kids are saying, no, I was born in Eretz Yisrael. I'm closer to Mashiach. You're an older version. Can you evolutionize? Can you move? Right? That's what the whole tnuah of Yotzim B'Sheila is. Or Chilonim. It's like, you guys got it wrong. Develop. Evolve. And the V'heshiv Leiv Oas Al Banim V'Leiv Oas Al Baneim is part of Mashiach, where they can actually work together. Because the children are children, and they won't necessarily, there are things they're going to miss in the equation, because they don't have all of the Torah, right? And they're young, and so the parents have to be involved. But the parents have to move with the children. Because otherwise they're going to stay in this galutim mentality, like Sina, right? A lot of the Sina for the guy in Cain, you know why? Because they beat the hell out of us for 2,000 years. I mean, what do you want? It's like an abuse victim looking at this abuser and saying, oh yeah, he's really a good guy. I mean, listen, that doesn't mean it's your friend, but as a nation, it's like hard to deal with.
Yes, but like, people should realize that it's more of an, like, when a nation came to destroy us in the past, like, it's not the individual standing in front of you right now.
You know, we have that in this country? Arabs. You ever have a relationship with an Arab?
I have a couple of Arab friends.
Mm-hmm. My kids do also. Right?
My mother, an Arab gave him her 50 shekel. She said she didn't care about it.
Right? Now you could decide. This horrible machabel, this person, he's such a dirty, horrible human being. You could do that. Is that MS?
No, the individuals with fucked up mentalities that are messed up.
So maybe you have to not be stupid and say, listen, there's something not mitukan about that person. But by the way, there's a lot not mitukan about me too. And I actually can learn from them a lot of things that can really change me. I always bring this topic up because I really think it's important to mechanech about it. There's a huge machala. You don't even realize how big it is. In Am Yisrael right now, it's called sex trafficking. Okay? They use children to make money. Huge. Okay? It's a multi-billion-dollar business among frum Jews. Okay? The person who I would say is the most impactful human being in the world on fighting this machala is a Christian named Tim Ballard. If you look at that person's mitos, right? Amazing. Amazing. And all the people work with him. Amazing. Are they mushlam? Probably not. Right?
Nobody
But
is.
they have a lot to teach us.
Right.
A lot to teach us. That's the tnuah of Klal Yisrael, going out and learning from Jordan Peterson and from all these people in the world. What's his name? Different people who make a big impact in the world. That's good.
Einstein.
All these people, right? Einstein was a Jew, but
Oh.
because they have a certain gift to the world, that's what they're supposed to do. And just because we're Jews doesn't mean we're not supposed to learn from them. That's kind of dumb, right? When you think about it for like 5 minutes, like duh, it's only brainwash and bad mitos to get you think any other way. It doesn't make you less if you have to learn from somebody else. Ezu chacham halomed mikol adam. Not me, kol Yehudi. Ma kesha.
Why do the ultra-religious not see that? Why can't they comprehend that you could learn from others and they only believe in one thing and one thing only? Everything else is
Probably not true. They probably do. What you're saying is it's not probably true that they all think that way.
Whoever they are.
I'm not saying all.
Let's
Majority percentage, at least 90%, don't really think.
So I don't want to talk about specific people, okay? But a system which is motivated to do that, you have to look at the mitos behind it. My suggestion is that the two mitos that are there that I see very prevalent are gaiva and fear. If you have exaggerated fear, you'll do all kinds of mistakes. If you have a very false sense of yourself, You'll do all kinds of mistakes. That's why you see that all of the point is always midos. All of the idealisms people develop is because, if a person's invested in being better than somebody else, they're going to darshan kol Torah kula to tell you that it's true. And they're going to be, look, it says it, obviously. And if they don't, they won't.
I guess people are fear that you're saying is people are fear, like the strong belief that we have that the Torah is the ultimate, and Torah is supposed to. When Mashiach comes, like the Nevi'im say, we're supposed to be teaching the whole world of Hashem. So how can we be teaching the world of Hashem if we have to learn from the Goyim? That's also people are feeling that like the Torah, everything's in the Torah. So why do you have to go out of the Torah to find truth? Everything's here.
So I want to relate to that in one second. The other fear they have from Goyim is because there is very big klipos in the Goyim because of the way they are, right? In other words, if Esav got a bracha al char b'chatichya, then they're going to have an issue with killing more than we do, right? So when we deal with that, when the Israeli army has a relationship with the American army, there's a lot of morals and values conversations, and we don't necessarily agree with them, and we have to be careful not to be impacted by their morals. That's healthy fear. Non-healthy fear shuts you down and says, no, I can't have a conversation. Maybe you'll be influenced, and then you process, and you go, move, that's called life, right?
It's the fear of being influenced by the God.
That's not only that, there's a lot of other fears, but that's one of the fears, which is accurate. But that's what we do in this world, we work stuff out. Okay? Now the second thing you said is all in the Torah, okay, that's a false concept. Why? Because everything's in the Torah in level of chachma and level of neshama. But how you translate that in every single dar, dealing with the bayot nafshiot of the dar, it may not be that the place to look is chachmas Torah. The same way, if you have an infection in your body, right, you learn medical science. I don't think you'll find in Shas the understanding of how an infection works. You will find refuah, right? But if that's what your goal is, to understand how an infection works, don't look in the Shas. Or in the Chumash necessarily. You might find something which is makbil and will tell you the shorish of that. But there is a chachma of dealing with an infection with antibiotics that is not in the Torah. Right? If you want to understand the Torah part of it, you'll understand the midos behind that action, and are they midos elokut, or are they midos of the lower part of yourself? That you can say. For example, antibiotics is extremely aggressive, killing way of dealing with problems. It has ace of midos in it. Right? But it doesn't mean that you're going to learn in the Torah how to use antibiotics. That's dumb. So you're going to have all kinds of therapeutic methods about the nefesh, which is not the Torah job to teach you. Wow. You know whose job that is, by the way? Societal issues? The Melech. There's a Sanhedrin. They do mishpat, and the Melech does mishpat. You ever wonder why they both have a mishpat? What's going on? So it says in Drush Saran and Parsha Shoftim that the Melech's job is to do things that have to do with this world. Traffic lights, Sanhedrin doesn't deal with. Law and order, Sanhedrin doesn't deal with. If Sanhedrin would run law and order, the place would be full of rotzchim. Because they never ever killed somebody. But the people who were the Malchus, they had people who did stuff, they wiped them out right away. Because they're bad for society. Two different jobs.
Sanhedrin were more religious?
What?
The Sanhedrin dealt with more religious things?
They dealt with neshama topics, which means it has to do with Ein Sof. It has to do with things that your development with your kesher to Hashem. And how you use this world to that. But practically living this world, how the world can be a kli for Hashem, right? And things that have to do just worldly things, that wasn't the job of Sanhedrin. It became later the job of Sanhedrin when they took over the Malchus.
Right, second Beit Mikdash.
Right? Or it's called Reish Galusa, right? Or Bezdin, it's called later. Bezdin Makin Be'odin Shalal Pidin, the Ran says, comes from Malchus. The Koach of Malchus. But they're two different jobs. And it's another way of looking. You see something with a therapeutic method, it works. No, it's not Torah-dic, so hey. Well, it's insanity. Like, listen, it works. Use it for what it is.
You don't believe in therapy a lot. Like, it's also a conversation I've had with a lot of people there.
That's also an old mentality. 100 years ago, most people didn't believe in therapy, in all of the worlds, because they were too busy doing actions. The inside realm of a person wasn't. They didn't have enough time to care. They were busy washing clothes, dealing with
Chopping wood.
They're dealing with very physical things. The world has now developed to a point where the physical world is less your activity, and that's because the time of the world is to develop the koach of the ruach. Right? And so people are slow. Anybody who is shamran will always be slow, by definition, because he's trying to hold on to something. So all of the new things that come into the world will be like, wait. Okay, I would like to hear from you guys. What'd you gain from all this?
Well, I wanted to ask before I went to bathroom whether the Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael thing, does it acquire also now in our generation? Because in the old school I had like Kohens and Levis, and I saw they were like saying the brachot, doing stuff first. Like the rabbi always used to say, whoever's Kohen come first, So I'm wondering if any of it, whatever you say, applies to nowadays.
I liked what you said about the kid about.
Good question. When we learn more about specifically how the Kohen is expression of neshama and how the Levi is expression of the ruach, we can look in the world and see if those Kohanim and Levim are living up to their potential. Well, you'll decide after you know what the potential is.
Are we? I'm Yisrael.
All right. Or is Yisrael living up to his potential? Right?
Right.
And I would also throw out to you that many people think they're Kohanim and they're not.
What do you mean?
When you learn the parsha of Emor, you'll see that it's not so complicated to lose your kahuna.
Oh.
Through relationships, marriages it shouldn't have been.
Oh no, for sure.
Okay? So there's a story of Rav Haigon that he wanted to bring Mashiach. So he had a chalom or something that he had a Kabbalah that if they surround Har Bayis, a bunch of Kohanim blowing shofars, I think, I don't remember the story exactly, then the Mashiach would come. So he went, he got a bunch of Kohanim. I don't know if the story is true, but that's what I was told. So he went to Kohanim, and they did it, and nothing happened. So he had a dream later on that he said, all those people are walking around with their incredible gaiva blowing the shofar, I think they're getting Mashiach. Only the last guy, the smallest guy, was a Kohen. The rest of them weren't Kohanim. Anyway, just to point that out. What do you want to say, Gabriel?
I wanted to say I liked what you said about the kid and the kid. And there's three parts of him: the yitzhar, the ruach, and the nefesh. And what my father said about that the old guy is the ruach and the neshama is the young guy. No, the opposite.
The nefesh is the young part of yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And the yitzhar is
The Yitzhar and the Yitzhar are both old guys.
I'll write the book and then I actually changed it. It's not an old man anymore, it's not a little boy.
What is it?
I changed it to a king and a princess. I'll explain why. Because the whole goal is for the neshama to marry the nefesh. So we don't want to talk about old men marrying little boys. That's like getting in trouble with that.
Okay, but what happens is they're all developments, different midos. They're both true. In different times. That's why if you look, our relationship with Hashem has a lot of expressions. Sometimes we're daughters, sometimes we're sisters, and sometimes we're wives, and sometimes we're banim. It's just different midos. So they're all true.
Maybe the old man marrying the little boy is like your older self marrying your younger self.
I don't know if it's marriage over there.
Right.
It's a father doesn't marry their son, but there's a very important
Different
developmental relationship that happens that you need.
Right. So I basically this whole concept kind of started to expand, which is brilliant. So I came up with this. I guess I'm going to develop it into a story, but the neshama is the king in this story. And by the way, when I